Hey guys, it's January 8th, 2026. Let me start with a feeling I think a lot of people in their 20s and 30s recognize instantly. It's that quiet realization that you're doing everything right and the finish line keeps moving away. You save, you work, you delay gratification, you refresh Zillow like a bad habit, and still home ownership feels just out of reach. Now, a lot of people will tell you this is just how markets work. Rates go up, prices go up, cycles happen, deal with it. But I don't think that explanation fully holds water anymore. Because when you zoom in on what's actually happening in housing, you start to notice something important. The problem isn't just affordability, it's that the game itself changed. So today, I want to walk through three reasons why pushing back on large institutional buyers in single family housing could genuinely help younger buyers. Not magically, not overnight, but in ways that actually matter. First reason, fairness isn't just a moral concept, it's a market force. Housing is one of the few markets where humans compete directly with institutions for the same products. Same house, same streets, same front door, and that's unusual. When a first time buyer walks into an open house, they're bringing emotions, uncertainty, and constraints. They're thinking about schools, commute times, and whether the inspection will blow up the deal. An institutional buyer shows up with none of that. They often pay cash, they close fast, they don't care if the floors are scratched or the paint is ugly. And even if they only represent a slice of the national market, around a few percent of total homes, their impact is heavily concentrated. During the pandemic boom, investors accounted for more than 20% of home purchases in cities like Phoenix and Las Vegas. That's not a rounding error, that's market moving. When enough buyers behave like spreadsheets instead of people, the entire pricing structure shifts. Prices stop reflecting what families can afford and start reflecting what capital can justify. So, when policymakers say maybe these two groups shouldn't be competing for the same starter homes, that's not radical. It's acknowledging that fairness affects outcomes. Markets don't just respond to money, they respond to who is allowed to play. Second reason, high prices aren't just about demand, they're about who refuses to leave the table. Here's something that confuses a lot of people. Mortgage rates jumped close to 7%. Home sales slowed sharply. Affordability collapsed. And yet, prices stayed stubbornly high. Why? Because when traditional buyers step back, investors don't necessarily follow them out. Many institutional and semi institutional buyers aren't rate sensitive in the same way households are. They're yield focused. If rent growth looks solid, if long term appreciation pencils out at 4 or 5%, they'll keep buying even when families can't. That creates a strange dynamic where demand never fully clears. Normally, high prices push buyers away, sellers get nervous, prices come down. That's how markets reset. But when a class of buyers can keep purchasing through downturns, that reset gets delayed. We've seen this in real time. Even in 2025, with sales volumes near decades lows, home prices nationally were still up more than 50% compared to 2019. That's not just a supply issue, that's a demand composition issue. Reducing institutional demand doesn't crash the market, it allows it to breathe. It creates space for price recovery to actually work again, especially at the entry level. Third reason, housing isn't only an asset class, it's a life stage. This part gets overlooked constantly. For younger people, buying a home isn't about maximizing returns, it's about stability. It's about knowing your rent won't jump next year. It's about planting roots. It's about feeling like you're finally on solid ground. When that milestone keeps slipping further away, the effects compound. People delay marriage, they delay kids, they delay settling into communities. And over time, that changes society, not just balance sheets. We already see this in the data. Home ownership rates for people under 35 are still well below pre 2008 levels. Many are renting longer, not by choice, but by constraints. Now, layer in the psychological effects of knowing you're bidding against companies that own tens of thousands of homes. That doesn't just discourage buyers, it demoralizes them. So, when leaders start drawing boundaries around what housing is for and who it's primarily meant to serve, that sends a signal. Not a guarantee, but a signal. It says single family homes are first and foremost about living, not optimizing yield curves. That signal influences behavior. Builders adapt, lenders adjust, investors reallocate. And over time, markets follow incentives. Let me be clear about something before wrapping up. This doesn't solve the housing crisis. Nothing that simple ever will. We still need more construction. We still need zoning reform. We still need smarter land use. But this approach addresses a specific distortion, one that younger buyers feel every single weekend at open houses. It nudges the system back towards people without pretending the system can be perfect. And honestly, it's a market this broken. Incremental improvements matter. Housing doesn't have to be easy, but it should at least feel possible. And if your younger people feel like they're competing against an invisible Wall Street balance sheet for their first home, that alone changes the tone of the entire economy. Sometimes policy isn't about fixing everything, it's about restoring a sense that the future is still reachable. And right now, that might be the most valuable thing of all. Peace out.